What's up, guys? Welcome to Justice Con. I'm your host for this panel, Sheraz Farooqi, and I'm joined by none other than Darkseid himself, Ray Porter.
Hello.
Ray, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Happy to be here. Happy to be here. Of course,
And
the star today is American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So it's great to be a part of this again for that cause. So very happy to be here and very happy to finally meet you, sir.
Likewise, man. I think it's a long time coming, and I'm very happy to finally speak with you. And on a platform like Justice Con, there's no better one, to be honest. So, like Ray mentioned so graciously, there is a running AFSP fundraiser. So please donate if you can. And if you can't, definitely share it. It goes a long way. So without further ado, let's just kick it off. Let's jump right into it. I know you guys are excited in the chat, so why even waste time, right?
Let's go.
Before we get into Zack Snyder's Justice League and your incredible performance as Darkseid, I wanted to take us outside the proverbial box, or I guess I should say mother box, but and get to know you, right? Get to know you, Ray Porter, the man. So, Ray, what is your origin story, and how did you get into acting?
Wow. I came up in a family of people who were in the business. My mother was an actress, singer, dancer, Broadway, that sort of stuff. Her father, my grandfather, was with Ringling Brothers and a couple of other circuses, and also did publicity advance for several touring Broadway shows from like the 30s onwards. So it really was kind of the family business. And I wasn't going to do this. I was going to do something else. Got to high school and started hearing all that noise about the decisions you make now will affect you for the rest of you. And then I went and I saw a play, and there was something about that play and that particular event that happened in the theater. And I decided, I really would like to do this. So I went to college, went to the California Institute of the Arts here in LA, graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Acting.
Nice.
And then shortly after that, went to work at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival in Ashland, Oregon. Was there for 18 seasons, and then would do television and film in the off season. I would come down to LA and do various things here and there. And that's about it. I'm here in Pasadena, and I'm in my audiobook narration booth, which is essentially a blanket fort where I do funny voices. That's it in a nutshell.
You mentioned audiobooks, you mentioned narration, because really, I think the star attraction when it comes to Ray Porter is your voice. I mean, your voice leads everything that is your name, right? So,
well, thank God it's not my face. Look at this wreckage.
No, I'm selling yourself short there, but I definitely think that again, your voice is what people are drawn to when it comes to your performance. So take us to the moment where you realize that, hey, this is what I can capitalize on. And you made basically a whole career just making your voice the key figure.
It's a funny thing. In the small town I grew up in Indiana, there was a country music station. And at some point I became really enamored with the idea of becoming a DJ or being on the air. So I'm 16 years old and trying to force my voice to sound like that, which did not go well. But my voice just sort of naturally, over the years and years of training and technique and abuse, I sound the way that I do now. I started narrating audiobooks shortly after I left the Oregon Shakespeare Festival as a way to, work and really didn't understand the challenges inherent in audiobook narration. I mean, you ask any actor who has narrated audiobooks and they will tell you it's exhausting and it's deceptively difficult work. But I've been fortunate and worked really hard, and I have something like over 400, close to 500 at this point out, which is not that big a number compared to some other people. I know narrators who have 1,000 books out and that kind of thing, but it's been great. Also because during COVID and during lockdown, I can still work because I'm working from home and sending, the audio off to various studios. So that's been great. And I never really planned, that my voice would be a thing, but I mean, doing live theater in a big open air 1,200 seat theater, you really have to make sure that your instrument is on point because, you know, I always say the guy in row Z deserves the same performance as the person in row A is getting. And I always felt really honor bound to make sure that everybody heard and understood it. And that's a lot of technique and, you know, kind of hard work. And so, yeah, vocally, it's been interesting how that's all kind of come about. And then obviously in the case of Justice League, it all came from Zack. I knew Zack personally, socially, basically. But he knew that I narrated audiobooks, and he really likes to hear the script rather than just sitting and reading it. So I would go in with him and with Chris Terrio, and I would read the script aloud. And sometimes there'd be other actors there as well, not from the cast, but other actors that were brought in specifically for the read, so that they could just hear how the dialogue flowed and that sort of thing. And basically, there was one day, I don't really remember it. Zack actually reminded me of this story where he said, "Hey, can you do this voice?" And I went, sure, and did what I thought Darkseid sounded like, you know. And he was like, okay. And I didn't hear anything, you know, I didn't think anything of it. It wasn't like it was an audition or anything like that. And then it was shortly thereafter, I was cast as Darkseid.
That's amazing.
Which was a trip. And I have to say, vocally, it's not a place I had ever been to before, for that particular character. It is definitely its own thing. Doesn't sound like anything else necessarily that I've done.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring that up, because I was going to ask you actually later on, but actually I'll bring this question up forward. And instead, you know, where do you have to go to emotionally when you're about to tackle a character like Darkseid? Because this is different than, like you said, anything else you've done. And
yes.
And when you're going at it from a vocal standpoint, you're like, okay, here's this character, absolutely iconic, a Jack Kirby character, someone who's had multiple voice actors basically pass the baton one to another when it comes to this voice, but you are the first live action Darkseid voice, right? So
I'm really glad I wasn't thinking about that when I was shooting it, honestly, because I think I probably would have just, you know, deer in the headlights.
Right. So I guess,
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
No, go. No, I don't want to interrupt you. Go.
No. It just, you know, I mean, you know, so when you take into account Michael Ironside, you take into account Andre Braugher, Jonathan Adams, and several of these other amazing voice actors who've done this. That's an intimidating group of people. And if I'd spent a lot of time going, gosh, I hope I measure up, I don't know that I would have been able to do the kind of performance that I would be happy with.
Right.
So instead, it was more about just focusing on what was happening between myself and Kieran and myself and Peter in playing the scene, and what is it that Darkseid wants, you know, that good acting 101 stuff, you know, why am I here? What am I doing? What do I want from this? And also, you know, just making sure I'm not playing, you know, boy, I'm evil, golly, I'm mean. You know, Darkseid wants something and is motivated very clearly by it and will do anything to get it. And that kind of drive, that kind of passion, that's what you play. You don't play, oh, I'm bad and apocalypse is all scary, you know, because that's boring and the audience smells it. I always say the audience is the smartest person in the room.
Right.
So
well said. And, you know, you mentioned people like Michael Ironside. Did you, when Zack called you and you thought about it, did you actually look back and said, let me hear how other people have done it? Or you said, I'm going like it's fresh?
Yeah, no, I didn't. And I had actually, that's something that had carried over from doing Shakespeare, because, you know, when you play a role in Shakespeare, there's been 400, 500 people that have done that role. And in many cases, there'll be like film of it, or, you know, really what people consider the definitive thing. So what am I going to do? I'm going to be a cover band for that other actor who did a really good job? No, it's mine to do. These are the words that I have been given to say, and I need to play them as honestly and as truthfully as I possibly can right now, and pray God that it measures up when people put it in context of these other actors. But for me, it was just about an actor playing a scene and, you know, doing that to the best of my ability. I really didn't want to think about any of that other stuff, nor did I want to try to, I don't want to try to do what Michael Ironside does. I don't want to try to do what Andre Braugher does. They're brilliant, amazing actors. And I wouldn't be able to do as good a job as them being them. So, you know what I mean?
Well said.
You know, you don't want to be a cover band, basically.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you know, Shakespearean characters, and superhero comic book characters are very much in that same vein. They're modern mythology. People pass the baton, like I've used analogy before. You pass the baton from one person to another, and it's like you continue the legacy, you continue the journey of this character, and you bring something fresh to it. I remember Mark Hamill said something similar when he was taking on the role of Joker for the first time, and he was like, "Oh, you're not doing Jack Nicholson, you're doing your own character." And look what he did then, right? Now he's become kind of the standard of an animated Joker, right? So it's always like, when can you put your stamp on it? And then speaking to DC as a mythology and DC as characters, I wanted to get into what your relationship with DC was. Were you ever a fan of these characters? Did you have a certain affinity to any particular cartoon growing up or a certain film growing up? Where did that relationship start? Or maybe it never even started. Maybe it came starting with this movie.
It was always kind of a part of the world, you know. For me, I was always, you know, I think my favorite was Batman, always, kind of still is. I mean, going back to, like, you know, when I was a kid and I was given the old Corgi Batmobile with you push the button and it does all that stuff, you know. I mean, just Batman was cool, but I'm talking about the, like, Adam West, you know, that whole, you know, that early stuff. And that was really just part of the landscape of my childhood growing up. I was never someone, and I kind of tried, but I was never somebody who really gravitated toward comic books. And yet, though I had a lot of friends who did and who were absolute experts at it, and people who had, you know, exhaustive collections, it was never really my thing per se. I always respected it and appreciated it. It just wasn't necessarily for me. Coming into the world in the way that I did with this movie was great, because in a way I had to retroactively kind of play catch up. And when, you know, there was that long sort of weird interim period where nobody knew if it was in fact a Darkseid, who was playing the Darkseid, then there was a rumor that it was me, and I really couldn't come out and say, yes, it's me. I received a real education, and still do, from the fans, from the fandom. And I've been schooled by some pretty smart people as far as the backstory. And it's been great for me, because I can go back kind of now on my own and look at this very intricate, very ornate, almost Byzantine intertwined storyline of Darkseid and all his iterations. It's vast. I mean, it would make Shakespeare go like, damn. You know, and so it's one of those things that, you know, and that's just one character. You really see people that have really loved comics all their life and have really explored it and are very, very knowledgeable about it. I mean, you got to keep track of so much. There's so much information, and it's constantly changing. It's constantly fluid. You know, that whole debate about what is canon, what is not, you know, that sort of thing. I'm only just now learning it. And people have been very kind about it. But, you know, at the end of the day, it was like, no, I'm just an actor playing a scene. And it's only later that I realized kind of the mythology of it, you know, and that sort of thing. And there was definitely one day where I went, damn, I'm the first live action Darkseid. Whoa, that was huge.
It is. It's huge.
But I'm glad I realized it after I was done filming.
Right. And listen, it's something you should definitely stake your claim in, because that's an amazing feat. And the audience has absolutely been loving your performance as Darkseid. And it's been great to see. It's been great to see, even from our end, is just covering it. It's like, yeah, it's like, oh, this Darkseid voice, like, that was Darkseid. That's Darkseid to me, you know. And I was like, okay, this is awesome, because as a fan of Darkseid myself, growing up, I'm like, yeah, this is what I wanted to see in a Darkseid. There's layers to his voice, and not to say that the Super Friends 1970s caricature Darkseid, he has his place in time, but the more layers you add, every single interpretation, the character evolves, he grows, he changes. In many ways, he actually comes closer to what Jack Kirby's original vision was, right? And I think that's where you
that's the main goal, is that for you and for people who really know that what I bring to it measures up in some way, because you are the authority on it. You know better than most. So yeah, that was my great fear right before the movie came out, was like, God, I hope it's legitimate in the eyes of true fans, true comic book fans, you know, and that it works. And I've received some wonderful messages from people and really kind things. And I've, you know, screenshotted a lot of it and just saved it because it's so special. And then, of course, to have the kind of benediction from Jeremy Kirby, and when he said the things that he said about it, it was, I was extremely proud of that.
That's absolutely awesome. And I just want to remind the audience that we do have a live fundraiser running for AFSP. Yes. So please, whatever you can donate, even if it's a couple of dollars, it goes a very long way. You guys already are used to saving lives and through AFSP, and I think we can keep it going here. I think that's what Justice Con is all about, and that's what you guys are all about as a fandom. So continue to put your best foot forward and continue to donate and share as you can. Sure. We all really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And you're not broken, and you're not alone.
Well said. Well said. So Ray, let's circle right back and let's go back in the timeline to the point where you got the call. You're gonna do some lines for Zack, become Darkseid. But you know, as every great story, there's gonna be ups and there's gonna be downs. And when did you find out that you ended up not being in the movie? The things you recorded were not going to be going in. Was it shock and barrel right at the point where the theatrical cut came out, or were you already told in advance?
No, I was told in advance. I was told that there were going to be reshoots happening, and that Darkseid's arc was no longer involved in the story. I was just told that kind of one-on-one personally, and so I got to go kind of sit with that on my own.
How did you feel?
Not good. You know, I had such a great time doing the part, and I had such a laugh with Kieran and with Peter, and also just being a part of it. I mean, I've talked often about what it's like to work with Zack Snyder, and it really, the only thing I remember from the entire time working with him was just joy, you know, joy in the project and excitement about what was going on. I mean, it was one of the best experiences I've had, and I've had a few experiences, you know. So it was very sad, obviously, that I was not going to be involved. But I also have been in Hollywood long enough to know that this is how things go. And so I kind of it was sad, but I kind of let it go. And then the movie came out. I didn't go see it, you know, because just like, hey, you're cut from the team, but want to come watch us play a game? No. You know, so I've never seen the 2017 release. I did ask at some point. I sent emails to both DC and to Warner Brothers saying, hey, now that the movie's out, I'm seeing there's speculation that Darkseid may have been in the film and people are wondering who it was. Can I come out and say? And they were like, we'd really rather you didn't. So I was kind of, you know, at home reading on websites, you know, people going, who do you think played Darkseid? And there'd be this long list of really great actors, you know, and people that are really, really well known. And I'm just kind of sitting by myself going like, it was me. And there's, you know, there's something about like, I don't know. You in Hollywood, you get to a place where you almost like don't trust things because stuff can change on a dime, and it's just circumstantial. It's not like it's out to get you. It's just things can happen. And so while I was really, really excited about, you know, the movie coming out, there was also this fear of like, well, maybe they will replace me, you know, with somebody who's actually more well-known and that sort of thing. And I was reminded by somebody much smarter than I am that this is Zack Snyder you're talking about, and he doesn't work that way. And that calmed me, right? That calmed me down, you know?
Right. And anyone who's ever spoken about Zack down the line, any movie, any production level, down to someone from the top to someone who's just starting out, they've only had the nicest things to say about him, and everything that you've said really just puts a stamp on that and says, hey, this is my stamp of endorsement. I agree with this. But let's go into that moment where you're working with Zack. There's this picture that the fandom has actually fallen in love with, this photo of you and Guinness. And you guys are on your mocap and everything. I mean, take us into that process. I mean, was it your first time wearing mocap, first time doing that kind of work?
Do you know, it was my first time wearing the mocap suit, and I've had a lot of other friends who've enjoyed that particular pleasure. Now, what we were doing in that was a slightly different garment. That garment it's kind of what Ray Fisher wore for his time as Cyborg. It's a slightly different thing. We did do a mocap session where we were in the black lycra with the sparkly balls, you know, at different points around our bodies, kind of thing, which is, you know, as I've said before, not a visual anyone needs. Don't just, if you're imagining me in a lycra suit right now, just don't. It's better for everyone. And then we did this, you know, a lot of the scenes wearing those the garment with it's kind of beige with They look almost like cartoon suspenders with dots on them, and it's obviously the computer picks it up. And then we had headgear with cameras and a little light shining in our eyes, right in our faces, just to capture this part. So, when they were doing CGI and stuff like that, they had the musculature of the mouth, the way that the mouth moves and speaking, and, some facial expressions and eyes and that sort of thing. Which just makes everybody, more real. And so that selfie that I snapped was at the end of the day, and we were in the golf cart heading back to our various dressing rooms. And I was like, well, we're all, idiots in a golf cart dressed in these little suits. Got to take a selfie. So I did. Possibly the worst selfie I've ever taken of myself. The other guys looked great. I don't know what the hell happened to me.
No, I think I heard no complaints from the fans. Everyone was just celebrating that, as I've been seeing this artist putting their rendition of it. Drawing.
Yes, that was the thing I was going to talk about. Was like immediately the artist just went, "Thank you," and started doing this incredible stuff with it. It was really fun.
Nothing beats a live inspiration right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Being on a set with Zack is exciting. It's fun. You trust him completely, because he does not work without a plan. But he's so great in communicating that plan. And he's also open to ideas. And it's like it's hard to describe. It's like a celebration of what we all can do when you're on a set with him. I loved it. I love and respect that man completely, and Deborah. And I would work with Zack under any circumstances. I trust him so much. There's a thing about being an actor where you feel safe with some directors, safe to explore stuff, try different things. You trust what they want and do what they want, because you know that it's going to be the best it can possibly be. Not every director is like that. Zack is definitely like that. You trust him implicitly. Right. And I would work with him almost under any circumstance.
It's interesting, Ray, that we're going through this timeline. I'm going to take you back and forth a couple of times, because you mentioned this. You mentioned this twice now. That moment of knowing you're this character, or you had the opportunity to be this character, but also simultaneously not knowing if anyone's ever going to see it. Right. Yes. So I'm going to take us to that moment now, where in 2019 reports came out that, hey, your name was attached to Darkseid, and then later. Yeah. Zack had like a cheeky reply on Vero that pretty much confirmed it. And so how do you feel in that moment where, you talked about a little bit where you asked DC, you asked WB if you could say anything, but now it's not just Darkseid's rumored to be in the movie. Now it's Ray Porter is rumored to be Darkseid. Yeah, two Rays. Yeah, Ray Porter is rumored to be Darkseid. So what does that feel like?
It was definitely weird. I had been told, just be quiet about it, and so I did. And I've told this story before about going to bed one night with 300 Twitter followers who were audiobook people basically, and friends, and that sort of thing. Getting up the next day and having 2,500 and an inbox filled with like, "Hey, did you play Darkseid?" And I panicked, like, "Oh God, are DC and Warner Brothers going to think I said something?" Because I didn't want to get in trouble. I contacted both of them, and they were like, "No, we know it. It's not you. It's okay." And I was like, "Okay, good." But even then, I didn't feel okay about going, "Hey, it's me." And I didn't feel okay about saying that until I got the word from Zack. And that was after he announced that it was going to happen on HBO Max, that famous viewing party thing where afterwards. And I texted him. I was like, "Congratulations. I'm really thrilled for you. Can I please come out of the closet as Darkseid?" And he said, yes. And so I went on Twitter and said, officially, yes, I finally played it. Before then, it was kind of getting to know the fandom and learning my way, and learning about a sudden increase in attention is maybe a good way to put it, and what the responsibilities are, with that. Only once, and it was on Reddit, did I see somebody really ranting about, they're not going to have some has-been audiobook narrator. They're going to want a real actor. I was like, wow, that's incredibly brutal. So that was kind of my first real taste of the joys of the internet. But nobody in the fandom that I encountered, on Twitter or in any of these other groups was ever that way. Nobody was ever like, "Who the hell are you?" It was like, "Oh, okay, you're playing it? Great. Welcome. Cool." And then a lot of questions like, what do you know about Darkseid? You know, and that was when I went, damn, I got to study. I got to get caught up. These people are way smarter than I am about this. But it's been mostly joyous, you know. I've gotten to meet some incredible people from all over the world, and that was another thing, was like, you know, after all of that buildup, before the movie was even seen and everybody had been so kind and I was so grateful and so appreciative, those last few days before the thing premiered, I was like, boy, I better not suck. God, I hope I do okay. You know, I hope it was worth all of this to these people. Thankfully, people have been very kind in the aftermath. So,
you mentioned Reddit, and you mentioned some people calling you different names, and in many ways, that's also a rite of passage for anyone playing an iconic character.
It was like, yeah, I'm in now. You know, it's
that's
like,
amazing.
yeah.
I mean, if even Heath Ledger, when he got casted as Joker, people were angry about it, and they're like, "Who is this?" And
well, think about every time a new actor is announced to play Batman, people are like, "What?" You know, there's always that weird backlash. And I learned after about 2 of them, where I, you know, in both cases, I was like, "Huh?" And then they were great. It was like, okay, then that's Batman this time. Let's see what that's like. You know,
yeah, it's always going to happen because people have preconceived notions. It's part of the you know, the double-edged sword of fandom, because people feel an ownership over characters.
Absolutely.
And then that can always backfire when that ownership turns into aggressiveness, right? And aggressiveness and possessiveness. So because of that,
that's a great way to put it, actually, Sheraz. That's a perfect way to put it. It is ownership. They get very possessive, and they're fiercely possessive about it. And it's to be respected, for sure. Although, you know, it's best not to really take a lot of the things that are said to heart, because there's some harsh things said with the bravery of being out of range, you know, when you're sat behind a keyboard.
Right.
But yeah, it was, in a way, you know, at first it hurt and it made me sad. And then I realized, no, it is a rite of passage. I'm okay with this. It's, you know, people should have an opinion. If they didn't, then, you know, you're in trouble.
Right.
You know,
well said. You know, it's interesting because now we're gonna keep going down the timeline, and let's go to the announcement. And you briefly mentioned it, that you finally said, "I can officially confirm I'm playing Darkseid." I'm sure it must have felt like the weight lifted off your shoulders. You can finally say something that you've been sitting on for probably 3 years now, but prior to that, right? And
for sure. So
not only for yourself and your own kind of artistic integrity, how did you feel for Zack and the cast? And
my God,
in that sense, when you hear that announcement? Also, did you already know prior that this is about to happen?
I had an inkling that it might, but I wasn't exactly sure when. And I don't like to believe things until they're made official. Again, that's that, you know, actor who's been around a little bit. You know, it's like you're hopeful and you're cheerful about it, but you don't really believe it until it's absolutely confirmed. So I knew it was in motion, and I had been asked to do some additional lines and re-record a few things right here in my studio, actually, for Darkseid. So I knew something was going to happen, but I didn't know exactly any particulars about it. So I watched, like everybody else did, that viewing party. And when that, you know, that moment happened, and he's so good about preserving those like surprises and those Easter eggs. And he held up that sign. It was like, oh my God, this is going to happen. This is amazing. And it was a great sense of redemption, both for everybody who worked so hard on that film, in every capacity, to finally have their day, to finally have their work seen, to finally realize the fruition of it. You know, obviously the redemption for my friend Ray was enormous, and nobody should have to go through what he went through, ever. And being the kind of good man that he is, he's working to ensure that nobody ever does. And I'll always respect him for that.
Yeah. I'll say this about Ray Fisher. Ray Fisher is one of those people who's a hero in real life and a hero on camera.
Absolutely right.
So he can play both. And in fact, you can make a case that what he's doing in real life is bigger than even what he did on camera. So and we all definitely support that. I'm sure the fans do as well. Yeah. So I know this is something the fans are very interested in, and I want to
Yes.
deep dive with you because let's just get into the film, you know? Let's
Yeah.
get into the film and talk about your favorite moments. Let's talk about things that surprised you the most. But first off, let's talk about your own performance
Okay.
and your favorite moment seeing Darkseid on screen.
Of
So
my
Darkseid
own
on screen,
performance?
yes, of your own performance, yeah.
Probably the best entrance I will ever have into a scene is when all of, you know, the parademons start bowing and Steppenwolf's like, what the hell? What the hell? And that great Junkie XL soundtrack just, yeah, you know, and coming through that molten steel. I was like, this is the best entrance I'll probably ever have ever. Because the buildup, you know, and all of that. I got to say pretty amazing words thanks to Chris Terrio and to Zack. I will stride across their bones and bask in it. I mean, it's as an actor, you can't ask for better. You know, all of existence shall be mine, and you know, and all of that. It was great.
Larger than life, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely epic, huge. You know. But also because I had no indication. I mean, I was in a dark room somewhere in a Lycra suit, so I didn't understand, you know, that Granny Goodness would be there, that there'd be this unbelievably huge cathedral, you know, or as Leslie Jones. And did you watch Leslie Jones's commentary?
Yes, hilarious.
Room filled with evil, you know.
If that doesn't scream mainstream, I don't know what does.
Oh my God. I think there needs to be a separate Leslie Jones commentary track on the DVD when they finally release the DVD that you can actually watch it with her commentary, because I howled with laughter.
Give her a blank check. Let her
exactly. But there was a lot of those just visual moments, you know, of Darkseid's world and the interplay between Darkseid and Steppenwolf. Even very subtle, very tiny, the interplay between Darksid and, you know, because Darksid is kind of risking things at the end there where he's like, I told you it would be. It's like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make it slightly dangerous for him too. So, you know, there were a lot of moments like that. I was also, I have to say, I was really excited when I saw the final product that, you know, Kieran sounds like Kieran, Peter sounds like Peter, and I sound like me. There was definitely effects put on the voices and definitely, you know, things done, but that's my voice. That's the voice I did for Darkseid. I can sound like that with a little bit of effort.
Right.
So I was really gratified that you know, it all came through in the way that it did, and it just looked cool. Just looked cool as hell. Those grunts and the grunts and the noises and everything in that battle, in the early battle with, you know, as Uxas and all of that, that's all me. I recorded that in the studio in London. And it's funny when you're watching yourself in a film, because it's a little like looking at a video from like a few summers ago when you were at a party. You see the image, but you also remember everything around it. You remember what you were doing right before and right after that particular thing was shot. And, you know, so there was all those layers on it. So those were kind of my favorite things about watching Darkseid, but I had so many other favorite things about, you know, the movie itself visually. I mean, from the very beginning, you know, the sequence in London with the music and the way that shot pans around with the Statue of Justice, and then there she is on the arm. It was just, you know, and there were so many of those moments. Superman, when he intervenes on Cyborg's behalf with Steppenwolf's axe without giving too much away, that made me cheer out loud. There were several moments like that, you know. Visually, it's such a feast, and this is why I think it survives well on multiple reviewings, because you always pick up new things. For instance, I saw the thing twice and didn't pick up and sadly, I have to apologize because today is about it, but I saw the film twice before I picked up on the AFSP billboard when they're driving away in that Mercedes, because I apologize, AFSP, but I'm a complete and total car dork, and I was just feasting my eyes on that Mercedes and I didn't see anything around it. So when somebody pointed it out, I went back and watched the film again and was like, oh my God, look at that, you know. And that's another thing, is if you could just go on an Easter egg hunt watching the movie, because it's all in there. There's so many little layers and so many little things to be found in it. So those are some of my favorite moments, and they're going to be more as I watch it more, if that's a fair answer.
It is, and that's an answer that I think most of the fandom will share. It's actually parse and parcel for what Zack's movies are all about, because Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, I mean, people learn so much. It's been 7 years since Man of Steel, and people go back to it, and they're going to be like, I didn't catch this, or this theme.
I have to say, as like a sidebar, that has been one of the most gratifying things about the release of Justice League, is that a lot of people have gone back and watched BVS and been like, I hated that movie, but I don't now. I see what it was doing. I see the point. I get it. So there's a redemptive thing for both Man of Steel and for BVS, for the haters, putting it in context with, shall we say, the first part of Justice League. Not like I have any insider knowledge, but I'm choosing to call it that. That it all kind of flows together, and people are able to see it more in context. And to their credit, there's been a lot of folks who've said, you know what, I was wrong.
Yeah,
this is good. It has its merits,
And that's the next question I want to ask you, because at release, I mean, you said you had, as always, there's going to be butterflies in the stomach, a little bit of anxiety that this film is finally coming out, and your role, which has now kind of been the worst kept secret in the fandom for a couple of years at that point, it's finally going to come to fruition. People are going to see it. So take us to the moment, that first viewing. You're sitting down, you're watching it, and then you see the reaction from not just the fans who are campaigning for, and they're gonna probably like it regardless, but the critics, the general audience, the way people flooded into it. How did that feel?
Gratifying as hell. And it was a wonderful thing. Not personally, but it was just a wonderful thing to witness justice being done. It was so great seeing the reaction from so many people in this validation of what everybody's been saying for a really long time. This is great. This is going to be wonderful. One of my favorite pastimes during that period of time, when the previews were coming out, when the teaser trailers were coming out, was watching the teaser trailer and then going on YouTube and watching all of the reactions and seeing the joy on people's faces and the excitement of what was coming up, and people really, really knowledgeable, watching these previews and going, oh, there's a Green Lantern, that kind of thing. That was great to watch. When the trailer came out with Darkseid's voice, I was like, so I went on YouTube and watched it, and people seemed happy, and I was like, okay, I can calm down a little bit. All right, people seem to like it. Good. Because that's been my whole thing, is I want to serve Zack's vision. My allegiance is to Zack Snyder, and I want to do my absolute best for him. And on the same level, my allegiance is to the audience and to the fans who haven't met yet, but with great respect and with great gratitude. I want my work to measure up in their eyes. It's really important. So I've been extremely happy that, for the most part, people have been pleased with what I did in the film, because it's that reaction that matters more than anything. Somebody sent me a note that their 4-year-old daughter was being Darkseid in the backyard, which I loved, and I quickly said, just tell her the Darkseid's always really nice to animals and to his family, because we don't need a 4-year-old running around.
I mean, to that point, Ray, I mean, I do want to interject and do say that, listen, fans loved you, other people on the cast loved you, critics loved you, and the Kirby family loved you. So let's just call you hit every single milestone, every single thing you got to nick off the sheet.
Dude, you're gonna make me cry. Yeah,
no, let's be honest. And as a critic, I'm part of that circle as well, and I get to see how they talk about it, and it's just been like, you did your job, and you did it well.
That's the most anybody could ever ask to hear. I really am. Thank you.
No, it all comes from the heart. And it's interesting, Ray, other cast members who haven't spoken, other people who haven't spoken about the film yet. I mean, you mentioned Kieran Hinds and your relationship with him. Have you ever talked to him since the film
No,
came
I
out?
haven't. He's not a social media guy.
Yeah.
And so there hasn't really been the opportunity to reach out to him. I mean, I had such a wonderful time with him. He's such a great guy. And he was leaving as soon as he was done as Steppenwolf, he was heading up to Canada to shoot The Terror, which I've been crazy about the Franklin expedition since I first learned about it years and years ago. And I remember I was like, who are you playing? He said, I'm playing Franklin. I was like, you bastard. I was so jealous. He's such a good guy, and he's an actor that I've been in awe of for so many years. But he's not a social media guy. I haven't had a chance to talk with him, or really Peter. I mean, my final memories of those guys, the last time I saw them was at LAX as we were all getting ready to fly back to England. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to
only imagine. Yeah.
I'd love
imagine how they felt about it.
But I think that, Kieran was one of the first people, if I recollect this correctly, he, that's not an easy thing to say. And I just said it, if I recollect this correctly. Anyway, but Kieran was one of the first people to kind of speak out about the inconsistencies between what he did and what the product was in 2017.
Yeah.
But I've not had a chance to speak with him since, and I would sure love to. I want to sit down with a pint of something cheerful and chat with him about it.
Maybe I'll have to reach out to his publicist, maybe put a feeler out there. Let's get an interview going.
Yes.
But Ray, you mentioned now a couple of times your relationship with the fans, and that's what I want to kind of get into next. And we'll let the audience know that in about 5 minutes, I'm going to start asking you guys to start throwing your questions in the chat, and you're going to get some, we're going to interact with Ray directly, but I'm going to segue that with talking about the fans with Ray. So it feels like from all the actors associated to Zack Snyder's Justice League that you're the one that's truly become like this friend of the fandom, right? And I mean, you're going to other live streams, you're interacting with fans daily on social media. So, and you've also obviously seen that there's a lot written about this fandom for good and for bad. So like you being part of it, you being part of it, you being like right there in the middle of it, how would you categorize the fandom surrounding Zack Snyder's Justice League?
Well, first of all, I have to say I never ever set out to be as interactive as I have been. And in fact, I've asked a couple of close friends, like, am I on there too much, like saying hi to people or whatever? But I grew up in Indiana. I used to get mocked. People would say, oh, look at you, a stranger's just a friend you haven't met yet, and people would make fun of me because I'll talk to anybody. I'm fascinated by people, and I don't place myself above anyone, especially in this line of work. I used to do construction. I know what actual work is. Dressing up and saying lines and pretending, there's physical challenges to it and mental challenges, and I guess it's work, but I'm not going to stand next to a construction worker or a miner or somebody like that and go, I work really hard too, or any of these people doing all of these jobs that so many people in the fandom do, so I'm always fascinated by people, and I want to get to know folks. And, I'm just basically, I've never been one of those. I think if I have any kind of hostility at all, it is towards people in my business who are somehow above it all, or somehow like, no, I don't believe in that. I just think that's bullshit. It's a gift that we get to do what we do. It's a gift that there's an audience at all. And yes, I worked really, really hard for years and years and years to get to where I am. And my technique is sound and all of that, but that's not your fault. I worked really hard to get here. So if people notice what I'm doing, gratitude is about the only suitable emotion to have in that kind of situation. And so my respect for the fans and for the fandom is that the kindness that I've experienced at the hands of the fandom has been incredible, and I want to return it. It still makes me feel a little funny that, like, if I say I liked somebody's art, that it really matters to them, because it's like, who the hell am I? But it does, and I'm grateful that it does, and so therefore I want to make sure that I spread the wealth, that I compliment people. And a lot of the days, I mean, I said to somebody at one point, I feel like I'm an art teacher in a school, because I'll go on Twitter and there's all this great stuff and I have to comment, or at least leave a like, just be like, that's really cool, that's really great, that's, because I mean, people don't have to draw Darkseid, but they do, and I'm grateful that they do.
Yeah.
And I was welcomed into this community. There wasn't a whole lot of like, who the hell are you? And I'll always be grateful for that. And so, yeah, kind of by accident, I've been, Ray Fisher is definitely there as well. But, sort of by accident, I've been the one who's like having conversations and engaging with people and all of that stuff. And I don't see any other way of doing it.
I think one of the reasons why fans gravitate to you is not just because you interact with them, because you wear your heart on your sleeve to the point where your humbleness is showing, and everyone can see it. That you're a person who's personable. You're a person who cares. You cares, and I've seen people who are going through something, and you're going to comment under saying that, hope you're doing well. You did that to me just a couple of days back. So, and I saw it firsthand. So it's these kind of things that, when I see that, how you interact with people, and it's like, there's like a running joke that the actors who play the worst villains happen to be the nicest people in real life. And you just fell right into that.
I'm proud to be in that number. We're all just, at the end of the day, no matter what it is we do to keep a roof over our heads or food coming, we're all just doing our best. We all go through the same shit. We all struggle with the same stuff. We all have the same pain, and the same joy, the more, I think, especially in light of the way things have been in the world of late, the more that we can all reach out to each other and remind, hey, we're all doing this. It's okay. I got you.
Well said.
You ain't broken. You ain't alone. The more that we can do that, the better, which ties into AFSP.
Yep. And I was going to lead right into that, because you guys have been absolutely amazing, and we've already now hit a big milestone of over $2,000 raised. We're at 2.1K in donations for AFSP through the Justice Con fundraiser. So you guys have been great, inspiring, awesome. Everything that Ray has been talking about for you guys have been living up to it live.
Congratulations, and thank you.
Awesome.
See, this is doing the real work. This is actually making a difference. I entertain. This stuff, this fundraising, you giving of your time, your energy, and your money to AFSP, that's the real work. That's the real hero's journey right there. And I'm so proud to be a part of something like that.
Likewise, even as a host and just a panelist, I feel the same way. I feel a sense of pride in that, like you guys are my people, in a sense that like when you guys are donating and I see you guys are saving lives, that's what it's all about. Like it says in the banner, fans can become heroes. So as we kind of enter our last 10 minutes or so, I want to open up the comment section. You guys have something you want to ask Ray, definitely toss it up. I'm going to keep a look as well and throw it out there. We have one question for you, and this is like, we're going to hypotheticals, but let's just throw it at you anyways, right? If and when there is a Justice League 2, would you want to work from your house studio alone, or with people like Zack to feed off their positive energy, or does it not make a difference in your process?
That's a really good look, man. This, acting is a sociable thing. The happiest that I am is when I'm in a room with other people creating things and we all get to create together. I'm grateful that I get to work, when I'm on my own in my booth, but if I had my druthers, I'd be on a set with people. It's something happens, it's like, oh, that actor's doing that thing, so I'm going to try this. Ooh, and you're playing together. I guess it'd be the difference between, kicking a football around, in your own net in your backyard on your own, or getting on a field with a bunch of other players. You rise together. So I'd prefer social, please.
Nice. I think that's probably what a lot of people feel right now, given the times.
Yeah.
Another question for you, Ray. Have you read any New Gods comics or watched any of the animated movies since Justice League? Like, have you deep dive into the character?
I've started reading the comics. I've started looking at comics. I actually incognito went to a comic shop here nearby and picked up some Darkseid comics to just kind of go back and to learn. And really, I want to look at so much of what Jack Kirby's original stuff was, and to see the evolution of the character, to see all the changes that the character has gone through as people kind of put their stamps on it. I have not delved into the animated stuff because part of it is because I'm afraid I'll watch it and go, well, I should have done that. Damn it. You know, but I will at some point.
It is an incredible moment that I was going to bring this up when we were talking about Darkseid's, like the Darkseid and that tension between Darkseid and Darkseid, because in the animated series, and Michael Ironside was playing Darkseid for this episode. Deep cut for the fans, but Darkseid, Darkseid rather, kind of just slightly questions Darkseid at one point. He's like, I don't know if this was the right move, like what you did right now. And Darkseid's like, oh, interesting, and he just kills him right there. And that was like the end of Darkseid for that episode, for the whole saga. So
what a fascinating viewpoint. Bye-bye.
Yeah, literally. And I was thinking, like, the more Darkseid's like just knocking on the door at Darkseid, I feel like some point you might have to also take care of him. At some, what I'm saying?
Jerk the leash a little bit. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. And so there's another question from Tom. When were you shown the first design for Darkseid, and what was your reaction?
I was shown the design for Darkseid long before I was cast. I saw the rendering that the artist just put it up recently. That thing's been on my phone for a long time, but that was in the Michael Wilkinson's office. He had mock-ups and renderings and depictions of all of the characters. And I remember seeing Steppenwolf in that spiky armor and going, "What the hell is that?" And then seeing Darkseid and like, "Whoa, that is so cool and so arresting." And then when I was cast, I went back and I actually got a digital picture of that image, and I've been carrying that thing around on my phone for years. It's like, wow, that's incredible. But obviously nothing compares to when you actually see it on the screen. The eyes, and I want contact lenses that light up orange like that. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I agree. So Ray, I'm a Superman fanboy. I love Superman.
Okay.
He's like everything like that I want to like try to strive. I'm a journalist because I like Clark Kent as a kid. All right, so
that's incredible.
All right, so I'm putting that as a preface to this next question.
Yes,
who would win in a fight, Superman or Darkseid? Just a one-on-one.
Well, that'd be a good fight, wouldn't
it?
Yeah. Oh, see, this is where I could get in trouble, and I don't want to, because there are people who are a hell of a lot smarter than me who probably already have an answer to this. I think Superman would eventually prevail because good prevails over evil always. But it would be a rocky ass fight to get there.
I mean, just off the comments, Darkseid Superman, Darkseid Superman, Darkseid Superman.
All right, you know what? Vote with your money. Make donations. Whoever donates the most for Superman on AFSP, or whoever donates the most for Darkseid, will be who wins the battle between the two.
That's the easiest way. And actually, while we're on that, the highest donation for AFSP during this panel and the previous one will get a beautiful poster from Why Not Stuff. If you watch that panel with our friend Dave, you know what it is about. But just another incentive. Another incentive. He's great, isn't he?
Yeah, I want to kick down some money for a poster from that guy. It's just, what an artist. Incredible.
Yeah. So, and then we got another question for you.
Yes.
Which other works of yours can we watch or listen to support you more?
Oh, cool.
Thanks for the shout out.
Sheraz Farooqi. Awesome beard. Yeah, your beard is awesome, dude.
Likewise.
Thank you. Welcome to Grooming Tips with Darkseid and Sheraz.
I'll take the next podcast.
Well, to listen, I play a bunch of different roles in Audible's production of Neil Gaiman's Sandman. And volume 1 is out currently on Audible. If you look me up on Audible, just go to Audible and search Ray Porter. You'll see a ton of books. Maybe you'll find something you like, As far as watching, I pop up in a lot of different things. I'm in Argo briefly. I'm in Almost Famous, a lot of like smallish, hopefully memorable roles. Sons of Anarchy, Modern Family, lots of things like that. It's fun when I see people posting on Twitter, like, oh, I was watching Shameless. What the hell? There's Ray Porter. It's like, yep, I was in there. So
I've seen a lot of that now. People in finding you in different places.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
You on social media.
It's like a media Where's Waldo.
Literally.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple of more questions that we are in the last 4 or 5 minutes we have left on this. Joey asked, if you can pick any iconic character to voice Doesn't matter who played him. Just give me your most like favorite character to play.
Optimus Prime would be fun.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
I'd love to do Optimus Prime. That would be cool. I think, gosh, what are some other ones? Actually, you know, any of the Transformers would be really fun to do. Boy, there's so many different, you know, characters, and certainly within the realm of just like comic books and in animation and that sort of thing, I'd love to be involved in. I'd kill to be in, you know, an animated comedy. I mean, you know, the idea of getting to do dialogue like what we see on Rick and Morty and that kind of thing would be especially fun.
Yeah.
You know, and those actors, I mean, I've met several strictly, you know, voiceover, like animation and that sort of thing actors, and they're just incredible. That's a world I'd really love to get more into. But I don't know. I mean, Joey, you tell me, man. What would you like to see me doing?
I mean, he said Reyes Prime would be so damn good.
Oh,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be really fun.
Right. So let's reel back into Darkseid a little bit, and let's. We have a question. How did you go about balancing the intellectual aspect of Darkseid and the pure strength and badass attitude that's in his voice?
Mordecai, it's a hell of a question.
It is.
You have to have. I mean, I'm sorry, you cannot have strength and badassery without the intellectual aspect, and vice versa. I mean, we're talking about a god who chooses to take the form that we know as Darkseid. So this is, you know, this is someone who can end a lot with just a thought. And those words, the words that I got to say in this film are epic and brilliant and incredible. I got to say those words, man. I'm putting a pin in that, you know. But I think that in a character like Darkseid, strength, badass, all of that stuff, that attitude is there because of the intellectual aspect, and vice versa. They feed into one another. If that makes sense. I can't imagine performing it just one way or the other. It's all kind of a piece. This is a god we're talking about, you know.
Pretty well said. Pretty well said. So I'm gonna end the questions there. I do have one that thing. A new hashtag might be starting soon. Ray for Transformers reboot. So just get ready for it.
Okay, I'm there for it. I'm there for it. I want to be a truck.
I'll take us home with the last question, and you know, obviously, restore the Snyderverse is now the big thing on the minds of fans. Everybody wants the franchise to continue in one way or the other from how Justice League left off. I think this is an easy answer, but I want to ask you anyways. Would you like to come back as Darkseid?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, are you kidding? I mean, you know, first of all, the idea of, you know, ask me if I want to work with Zack again. Absolutely. Do I want to explore this character more fully? 100%, especially knowing what I know now and what I have learned thanks to the fans. God, I'd love to explore this. I mean, there's so much more to do. And I'm not talking about just Darkseid. There's so much more to do. I'd love it if it continued. Now, obviously, I don't have any say and I don't know anything about it, but I would love it. I also just kind of want to keep the party going, like what we got going here, you know?
Yeah. And I do hope when it comes to party going, this is like my kind of parting thoughts to the fans on this, that make sure to enjoy the moment too, and make sure to enjoy this victory. You guys have campaigned for 3 years, donated upwards of $500,000 to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. You guys have campaigned. You guys put your money on the line. You guys have supported this thing. And I know we all want to see the next thing. And we all want to keep the wheels moving. But take a minute to just breathe. And like we're doing in this weekend, celebrate the achievement that we just had.
Absolutely. And if I could add to that, you know, the Snyder Cut got released because of positive, kind tenacity. Positivity and kindness before everything else. You never gave up the fight. You never stopped in the struggle. You kept on going, eyes on the prize. You know, a lot of wonderful things have been achieved, including the release of the film. But at the root of it, at least in my sense, it always came from a very positive and kind place. And I would hope that no matter what happens, those two things are above everything else. And you're not broken, and you're not alone, and give money, give effort, and give time to AFSP.
There's really no other way to end it. And you said the line, and he's next up because Ray Fisher is the next panel, and he's a friend of ours, but he's also being hosted by a friend of mine, Mr. Chris Wong Swenson. So definitely jump over there. Keep the ball running on AFSP. Keep the ball running on sharing and donating. Like I said, you guys are heroes just as much as the heroes you watch on screen. So take that with a sense of responsibility, a sense of pride, and let's keep having fun. This weekend's about having fun, right? So
absolutely. How nice to finally meet you, man. How nice to finally sit down and get grilled, man. I hope we get to do this again.
Yes, yeah. I couldn't want any better moment of having you with my brothers next time around. That'll be a lot of fun, right?
It'd be a privilege. I'd be happy.
Well, Ray, thank you so much for jumping on Justice Con. The fans are absolutely loving you. This panel's been great. It's been my honor to host you today. So thank you so much, man.
My honor too. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. I'm Sheraz Farooqi. I was with Ray Porter just now. Ray Fisher is next.
Say hi to Ray for me.
All right, guys. See you there. Bye.